everybody's week going?
It's Monday.
Other than the Stros, we kind of know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean it's Monday. It is what it is.
That is true. That is very true.
Start of the work week, just getting back in the swing of things. Weekend's over. It's never long enough. All the old cliches.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to build Patrick a Minecraft computer for over a week now, and the computer is all up and running and beautiful, and I got everything in there. Get Minecraft in, and we've gone through like a dozen errors now just trying to get it to load.
Oh wow!
We've had to repair it, rebuild it, devote multiple versions of Java, pulled old files from another computer.
Good Lord. I didn't think Minecraft was that hard to get up and running.
It's not supposed to be.
No.
This is the damnedest thing. Currently, it's bitching about JSON files, and they're there.
Huh.
So that's my current woe.
My computer woes is so Aiden kept trying to play like all these games like tabs and all that stuff it's just got a lot of crap going on, and I just had like a generic default graphics card from some POS that I bought way back in the day. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go start. I've never built a computer before, so I was like, I'm gonna go do some research, and I found a decent graphics card that was compatible with my system. I had to upgrade the power supply, but I got all that shit installed, got the thing in, and it was running great. Except after a couple of weeks, all of a sudden it would just crash at random. So I started trying to go around and figure out what it was, and what it is now my graphics card. My CPU is basically air cooled, but because the graphics card is sitting like right under it, the heat of the graphics card is getting up there, and that's what's causing it to overheat and crash. Yeah. So now I have to look into a cooling system for the computer, but first I got to go through the whole, making sure that my my current power supply can support it, what size and all that good stuff I need. I think I know which one I need. I'm doing a little bit more research before I pull the trigger on buying anything, and that way I can get it installed, and hopefully, because right now basically the way we're running it is Aiden takes off the whole side like shield of the CPU. Yeah. And takes a big old fan and sets the fan next to the like directly against the computer and runs this big ass fan. It keeps it cool and it lets it run, but I keep telling him, like, buddy, you need to put that side shield back on whenever you're done. Otherwise the cats are going to try and climb in there and nest.
Yeah, try to nest, and that's then they're going to catch on fire, and there's a horror movie.
You've got fiery cats running all over the house, and it's just a mess.
Yeah. But no, it's funny because we got like an Amazon book in that has like all the toys and stuff for preparation for Christmas. And Edward went through and already put stickers of things he wants. And one of the things on there was a phone. I'm like, you're not getting a phone. You're 7 years old. Like, I'll get you a tablet, But
so one thing that some friends of ours did for their like smallest kid, because he would get home before them, is they gave him a phone, but it only worked off the Wi-Fi of the house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like he couldn't just use it anywhere, but as long as he was home, he could like send out calls and stuff from it. So
take out the SIM card.
There you go. So it worked. That worked pretty good.
But so I guess we can get into the topic, because I really wanted to get my dad on this, but because of the things that are going on, it's hard for him to get on. But horror movies. It is the season. It is one of the things that we love to do when October 1st comes around. Start your horror marathons. And growing up in my house, those horror marathons were year round. I mean, jeez. And if it was a B movie with a giant spider or some kind of bug, that was my dad right there.
Yep.
Great memories.
The campier, the crappier, the better.
Yeah.
Oh, it just Friday night movies on what, TBS at the time or whatever. Oh, absolute schlock. You know, just you're like, how did this even get made? You know, we used to call them Z films. They were so bad. But we'd sit there and we'd watch them for, I don't know, anywhere from 2 to 10 hours at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's a whole like subgenre on YouTube, right? Of people just watching awful movies and doing commentary on it, right? Like that's part of what got like Red Letter and all them big, was just watching, you know, the worst movies they could find and just rating them and talking crap about them and just pointing out all the silly flaws and all that in it.
Yeah. Like MSTK.
Yep. MSTK definitely kicked that off. And I mean, it's fun though. I mean, right. That's that with movies like that, they're that bad. Like those are the those, you know, I'm a very big, like, please don't talk in the movie, I'm trying to watch it sort of deal. But when you're watching a movie that's just at every objective level is just awful, the only way you make them truly, honestly fun, and it's the experience of them, is just to start razzing on them, right? Just start your own little running commentary, form your own little gags about it, you know, because everybody always spots that one moment in the movie that just is hilarious, and then you take that and extrapolate it out across the rest of it. It makes it enjoyable. Because I know one of the running gags in my house now is we had watched The Exorcist 3 the other day with the kids. Well, I say the other day, it was like 6 months ago, but we were watching Exorcist 3 and we were all sitting around watching it. There's the whole monologue about the fish swimming in the bathtub and all that stuff that was just hilarious. And then there's the moment in the asylum where you see the old granny crawling around on the roof, right?
Yeah.
And my son at that point just starts busting out laughing, just laughing his little butt off. And I was like, buddy, what's so funny? And he's like, I just imagine, you know, the people who show up there to go see that old lady, like, Grandma, get off the ceiling. Get off the ceiling, Grandma. And they're like trying to hit her with a broom and try and get her down off the ceiling.
He told you not to do this. Stop it.
Yeah. So we took it further than that.
Making us look bad.
Well, we took it even further than that. We're like, okay, well, I was like, well, buddy, you know, she's possessed. And he's like, oh, does that mean she's going to puke, you know, green soup? I was like, no. Even better, because she's a grandma, it's going to be fresh baked cookies. And so it just turned into this running gag where we just talked about this possessed old grandma that, you know, like you go over to somebody's house and then, you know, everybody's hanging out and they're like, hey, man, are y'all baking cookies? No, don't say it. Cookies. And then right as he says it, right, this old grandma just like crawls out of this little crawl space, just like, just starts vomiting fresh baked cookies on everybody. And so it's a running gag now in the house. Just
this possessed grandma isn't so bad. We should sell these as you know, as some baked goods. We might make a lot of money after this.
There you go. Yeah, fresh baked cookies from grandma, straight from grandma. Not the way you're thinking.
Regurgitated in the best ways.
From
That's
Granny's
right.
mouth to your home.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes those kinds of movies fun, right? Because like growing up, most of the movies we watched was like all sci-fi adventure stuff. It was all, you know, Star Wars and Last Starfighter and all that. The only 2 horror movies I can really recall with clarity as a kid was I saw the end of Gremlins one time, which, you know, isn't really that scary of a movie, but that last scene of, you know, Stripe skeletalized and melting and the daylight hitting him and exploding and all that, right? It's mildly terrifying. And then I was over at a buddy's house and it was the beginning of Halloween 2, and I didn't realize it was until years later. I just remember the zooming in on the jack-o'-lantern, right? And then the opening with them chasing Michael and Loomis shooting him and falling off the balcony, going out and touching it. But yeah, I went until years and years. I think Andrew was the first real person that I sat down and started watching actual like classic horror movies with. Like, I just remember going over to his house. It was his birthday and I walked in and there was some random naked lady dancing around on a tombstone. I was like, what the heck is this movie? He's like, oh yeah, it's you know, Return of the Living Dead. I'm like, I have no idea what this is, but I'm fully invested. So all of them were sitting around joking, laughing and cutting up and talking. And I'm just sitting there like riveted staring at this movie like, guys, this is a great movie. Why is everyone talking over it? Why aren't we watching this movie? Oh, it's because they've seen it 50 times and I've just now seeing it for the first time.
That's how it is, man. That's how it is.
Yeah. Speaking of Halloween, I did watch Halloween Kills yesterday.
How did you find it? I've heard mixed things.
Up until maybe the last 20 minutes of it, it was really good. The last 20 minutes of it, it's like they phoned it in. So I mean, it's a good sequel to the new Halloween that just, you know,
one that kind of retcons
particularly it retcons everything back.
Yeah.
So, and it lives up to its name, I will say that. But the way they kind of squeezed in all the deaths toward the end was kind of hokey. It's going to be one of those ones somewhere down the road. Somebody's going to be making a lot of jokes on it. And it's going to be, you know, it's going to be that group of guys sitting in your room ripping up on it. I mean, you know, because basically Michael does get a lot of kills in on it and stuff like that. And it, for the most part, it serves the whole original idea of it very well. It just, they tried to cram in too much, too quickly at the end.
Okay.
So,
well, considering the fact that this is like a trilogy kind of in a way. So, because the next one's supposed to be to wrap everything up.
Yeah, the Halloween ends. I mean, the one thing that they've talked about in this is the fact that they bring back a lot of, they bring back a lot of the characters from the very first Halloween, the 78 one.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the original cast. They replaced a couple of the characters, but for the most part, basically anybody who survived 78 version or 78, the original one, are back.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, it was good there and stuff like that. And it served its purpose. I'm not sure, you know, they're building toward where this, you know, there's going to be this big ending. They're I want to do this with spoilers, but I can't.
Yeah, maybe in a couple weeks, whenever.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it yet either. But I mean, I want to see it.
Well, if you get the chance, we'll revisit it because, like I said, basically for me, the last 20 minutes of it was kind of like, really? But otherwise, I enjoyed it. You know, and I really enjoyed the first one of the new trilogy, the Halloween, I guess.
Yeah,
because it's set up.
Halloween.
Basically, what it does, it just sets it up as this is what happened all those years ago, and basically from 2 all the way up to whatever it was, or no longer canon.
Yeah,
right.
So, but it did a good job of doing that. It was a pretty clean retcon, and the way they introduced the characters. I mean, some of the characters that they brought back, like Tommy, they brought back the little kids, Tommy and Lindsay, but it's not the actual Tommy, the first one. It's Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
And basically the way they have these characters, it would be, hey, if you were going through something like this, how would this person react? And this character's like this, and this character is a completely opposite and stuff. And it actually made sense the way they were working it. It just, they went with a few tropes along the way, and so it was that's what it was. It was the tropes all built up to the last 20 minutes of it, and then it just kind of went off the rails.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see it. I know that Dad hasn't had a chance to see it yet either, but it all depends on when he'll be able to get to see it.
Yeah.
But speaking of movies, I just recently watched. So getting into it, we watched Ghostbusters for the first time with Edward.
Right.
And of course, he was a little scared at the beginning with the librarian ghost. And then after that, he was just completely invested in the movie. So he enjoyed that heavily. He was like, I'm ready to watch number 2 tomorrow. And I showed him the trailer for Afterlife, the international trailer. And he was like, I want to see this. When does this come out? And I said, next month, bud, a month from now. So yeah, I'm gonna get him invest in Ghostbusters like we were. But yeah, he was just laughing and giggling the whole way, dancing like this is great. But
Afterlife looks like it's going to be pretty good.
yes, it does. I am very, very hyped for that movie because after what they did with 2016, I just couldn't get into that movie at all. And
I never even watched it.
I got to the point where they made literally like the first like 10 minutes of the movie, and they made a sexual joke about a woman part and stuff. And I'm like, what is this? And this is a movie you're championing to little girls. I mean, you can't do that. And it's just like, no, I can't do this. It's not. There was comedic moments in the original Ghostbusters, but it was still serious. It was still fit within the world.
Yeah, because Harold Ramis knew what he was doing.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I think that one would have served itself better if it actually played up on the fact that maybe it was a sequel instead of just being like, Kate McKinnon's character just magically not only knows how to develop all the Ghostbuster tech, but also miniaturize it and all these other all these upgrades that didn't exist in the original show. All of a sudden, she just, oh yeah, we can just do it because the movie needs us to for whatever reason. Like they just immediately skip from they're down and out and they don't have anything to immediately they have all this super high tech and all this stuff. And I think that's something that you appreciate the original Ghostbusters for, is you saw those guys like struggling to get together right there, the stuff, and then once they make it, and then there's that little montage, right? It's like, okay, now you can believe that, yeah, now they're a big deal, now they understand. But it's just that 2016 one just skips that step and just jumps right into, yeah, they've got all this cool, they've got little handgun ones and all this stuff. If they played up more on, it was a continuation of the original series, and it would have been on the nose kind of stuff. But Kate McKinnon being like Egon's either daughter or didn't even need to be his daughter, right? Could have just been
a student,
someone else who was just like a big fan, like was a big fan of Egon and loved his ideas and had these great ideas to expand on the technology that he created. And then you would understand that gap, that bridge from, here's where the originals left off, and here's how they have this new tech and these new ability and all this stuff, because you would have seen that flow of it. But no, they just kind of establish, oh yeah, they're the ones who create all this, and they get these awesome upgrades all just immediately because Kate McKinnon's that much of a genius. Well, and yeah, it's like so much, and I've talked, I think a little bit about Marvel for me, where it feels like everything just has to be just funny, just constantly has to hit these funny beats, and we can't have good serious moments that just sit there and gestate and we can reflect on and all that. It's got to instantly be broken up with one liner constantly. It's like, guys, you need that balance, right? You need that good salty and sweet, right? Savory and sweet balance when it comes to a story. If you're a comedy and that's all you're going for, that's great. But part of what makes comedy work so well, especially some of the older comedies, is because you do have these really serious moments that sell you and buy you into these characters, so that even whenever they're funny and all these things, you eventually buy more directly into the story because they have these deeply humanizing moments to them. And it's just getting to that point of getting people to understand, hey guys, we need some realism here, not just.
And it's also the fact that it's sadly, when you cast an actor or actress that can't branch out from what they're known for, like if you have, what was it,
Melissa McCarthy,
yeah,
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, or I'm thinking of like freaking what is it, Michael Madsen?
Oh,
You know, he plays himself in every movie he's in. He's not actually playing the
That
yeah,
character.
but
character.
Jack Nicholson does that, and everybody loves him, right?
Yeah, because it's Jack. He practically invented it.
Yeah, he invented. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
he invented himself, sure, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, but you know, so it's hard to say, but it's like, but Jack Nicholson is such a character, right?
Yeah.
And he's become that over time. You can't just have been on SNL and then walk in and immediately everybody buy into the person that is you, right? Like Jim Carrey doesn't even do that. He plays characters.
Yes.
Granted, a lot of those characters are fairly similar, but he plays these drastic over the top characters, but each one of them is different in enough ways that it's not just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey over and over again. It's this one's clearly Ace Ventura, right? This one over here is clearly the Max,
Fire Marshal
right?
Jim.
Yeah, like you have these separations. It's still over the top, crazy ass Jim Carrey, but at the same time, it's like he put in the work, and you know that's where you can buy into that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I don't know. Like I said, that movie just it was trying too hard to really nail the funny and wasn't really focusing on so much on the story, it felt like. And that's, you know, that's why the first Ghostbusters is so well known and beloved and all that, is because it strikes such a good balance between all that.
Well,
that
yeah,
you're able to
you look at Harold Ramis playing Egon, right? And then
Right.
it's good. I'm going to go into another topic on this subject real quick, but after this, and he's so like serious. He plays that scientist, you know, and his jokes are deadpan. They're like, you know, they're
Yeah.
not like right out there, but they're like some of the most funniest lines in the movie. I mean, I'm terrified beyond the capacity of rational thought. I mean, come on, this is a great line.
Well, and then what made it even sadder was so the original Ghostbusters, you had all the crazy clowns, right, that were the Ghostbusters, and then you had, you know, the secretary, right,
Yep.
who anchored them all down, and then and Janine, and you had her who anchored the group together, and she was serious, but again had that same deadpan kind of response to everything.
Mhm.
And in the new one, you didn't have that deadpan anchor. You had weird airhead Chris Hemsworth just kind of bumbling around in that movie, being as much of an airhead as he possibly could. It's like, no, and that goes back to, you really need that balance. If you want Melissa McCarthy being Melissa McCarthy and, you know, Kristen Wiig being Kristen Wiig and all of them just being themselves, and you're trying to sell us on these over the top, crazy, charismatic, comedic people, somewhere in there you need somebody who, you know, is the normal man and is looking at that and just like,
that was what's great about
crazy.
Winston, you know.
Yeah,
Winston was the everyman person, you know, and he brought balance to Dan Aykroyd, Ray Stance's whole, I'm naive, but I'm so into this like supernatural stuff and excited about everything, and Peter Venkman being a womanizer, you know, kind of a face person.
right.
But you know, and it's funny too, because one of the things that everyone was laughing about was how Louis Tully kept on getting locked out of his apartment in every scene he was showing up in, even at the restaurant when he's like, I can't get in. Why does this always happen to me? But it's funny too, because he, like, when he saw him, he goes, I recognize him. Wasn't he in that Plant movie? And I said, yes, that's Rick Moranis from Little Shop of Horrors.
There you go.
Yeah, so I was like, it's good that he's catching those things, you know. That's what I did back in the day. That's funny because, like, you know, when you watch when you were younger and you watch Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man, and you for some reason confuse Mickey Rourke and Bruce Willis together because of how similar they kind of looked back then.
For years, I would get Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell mixed up. Like for years, I thought Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell were the same person forever. And then I started realizing, oh, wait, no. Patrick Swayze is a guy I've seen like no movies of. I just saw him in that Chippendale skit on SNL. and Kurt Russell is in all these other movies that I've watched and I love, and so they're just different people. But it's funny you bring that up because I actually had just a similar moment just recently. I was watching Young Frankenstein, and my daughter comes walking in, and she's like, "It's Willy Wonka," and I'm like, "No, baby, that's Gene Wilder. Yes, he played Willy Wonka, the good one, but no, this is different. He's playing Frankenstein." And she stuck around enough for the movie to enjoy bits and pieces of it, but eventually she just kind of got bored with it and wandered off. But I haven't found quite the right movie for her at the moment. But the horror movie that stuck with my son, just like he watched it and was immediately invested in it, was funny enough Alien. Like we sat down, I was just and we kind of touched on it earlier, right? Like I'm to the point where I'll pretty much show him anything that just no TNA, right? If it's got TNA, we try and avoid it. So keep that out of there. But Alien, right? The very first one, for whatever reason, just sat down and watched that movie, and from beginning to end, he was just riveted. And like right after we got done watching that movie, immediately went to Aliens, went to Alien 3, went to Alien 4. He wanted to watch Alien versus Predator. He wanted to watch Alien versus Predator 2. I came home one day and he was watching YouTube videos and telling me, "Daddy, did you know about like that this breed of alien and this alien and blah, blah." He just started breaking down like the genealogies and histories of all the aliens. I'm like, "Buddy, I know the movies, and that's where my knowledge stops." But hey, that's awesome that you're looking into all that, as deep as you are. That's cool.
But I think you broke Colin when you were talking about
Yeah, he did.
Patrick
Because all of a
Swayze.
sudden I'm picturing Kurt Russell in freaking Dirty Dancing or and in the Chippendale skit. And I'm like, he's got one eye and he's doing an Elvis. And it broke my brain, man. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Again, for years and years, Kurt Russell, Patrick Swayze, same person.
David was confused.
Years later, it finally hit me. Oh wait, no, completely different.
It broke my brain.
Because I said,
I can picture Kurt Russell in Red Dawn, but I can't picture Patrick Swayze in Big Trouble in Little China.
No.
No, I mean,
what are you talking about? You take him from
somebody has to do a deep fake. If you're watching and can do deep fake, please do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I want to see that.
Kurt Russell and Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze is Snake Plissken.
Yeah, just do one of those mashups and just mix the heads, and then just for fun, physically move the heads on screen so that you can.
There you go.
Yeah, what was it? No, because it's funny because like, what was it? So last night, Anna wasn't feeling well, and I was up with her for a little bit, and then I was like, I couldn't go to sleep, so I started watching Computer Wears Tennis Shoes because I haven't seen that. And that's a Kurt Russell movie.
Yes.
And I remember watching those when I was younger, and then I was like, when I didn't even like dawn on me until like years later that when I was watching, Escape from New York and all that stuff, I was like, oh, that's Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I could just picture Patrick Swayze in Escape from New York dancing his way through Manhattan.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I mean, what's the movie with Patrick Swayze where he's the bouncer?
Roadhouse.
There we go. So yeah, if you just take Roadhouse, Patrick Swayze, it's easier to picture him in some of those Kurt Russell parts. He doesn't quite have the snappy, comedic charisma as Kurt Russell, but at least the action, you can kind of see it, right?
Yeah. Okay, here's one that'll make you cringe. Let's put Kurt Russell in Ghost.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear Julie?
No, I had to mute myself.
Roy.
Dirty Dancing. Jeez. We're going off on a weird. That's a horror right there. Oh man. Yeah, that's a whole episode on its own. I need to have my dad on. Try to get Mark on there. We'll do a 5-person episode where we talk about what if movies were recast with other actors?
Oh, I'm so on board for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so on board for that.
But it's funny because like for me, Colin could tell you more about what it was like for being around my dad. So actually, I want to go into that. Y'all with horror movies. So and then bringing Ember into it.
Oh, it just always was. That's the only way I can start it off. It just always was. And when you guys were born, I mean, as soon as you were able to sit still, you'd be in one of our laps and we'd be watching B to Z horror movies, and you both would just sit there and just stare. It was just blank stare and just take it all in.
Yeah. Well, I know that whenever we would, I have one fond memory when I was really, really young, because my dad had a picnic table for a table in the house or the apartment we were at. And us watching one of the Friday the 13th movies.
Okay, that would have been South Houston, I think.
Yeah, that was the one over there off of
those white apartments right by the high school.
Yeah.
That wonderful place.
It's
another horror story in itself. But yeah, that's where you cut your teeth watching some of the original stuff because this was back when you had to leave a security deposit with the videotapes and stuff like that, because they were $80 to $200 a pop, and so we wanted to make sure that we were all together as much as possible to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
So we made it a family experience. We plopped you guys down. We had the popcorn, the treats, as best sound as we could possibly get out of it. Absolutely. I mean, it was along that time that Ember started walking. So she would just be shuffling around all the whole time, watching the TV as she's shuffling around,
Yeah, we were, what was it? It's funny too, because like one of my favorite directors is John Carpenter, of course.
Yeah.
And the fact that like The Thing, Prince of Darkness.
Thing was definitely one of the earliest ones for you.
In the Mouth of Madness, which I think, okay, so what's funny is that In the Mouth of Madness was one of the first movies I actually really thought was scary. But it was like, I enjoyed it. But it's because I have that fear of no-win scenarios. Of, a situation that you can't get out of. Like the Ghostbusters episode with the Sandman.
Okay.
How that like, Winston's the only one left awake and stuff. And it's like, if he doesn't solve this, then everybody's asleep for 500 years. Or the DuckTales episode with the golden duck. It's like, if they didn't get that duck over to the fountain to stop its process, everything would have been turned to gold. There's no way to win this situation. Yeah, no, with John Carpenter and stuff is like, yeah, The Thing and Halloween and The Fog. Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, I love it. I mean, that's one of the things as a staple that I watch throughout the year, but in Halloween, it's like I watch his marathon all the way through.
Then Terminator came along.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just, that was all you were all about that.
Yes. I made that joke today because my buddy Rob had posted something on Facebook about it was a picture of Lisa Simpson, and it goes, what people don't realize is that we're in an RPG and you just spec'd your character wrong or something like that. And I said, well, I just happen to spec my character to fight Terminators. I just, it never happened.
It's funny, with John Carpenter, like, so the one movie of John Carpenter's, because again, growing up kind of more action movie heavy, I tend more towards the monster, like the creature feature type stuff. Because I grew up watching tons of Godzilla, and my favorite Godzilla movie to this day is still Godzilla versus Biollante, because I love the design of Biollante, right? Like everything else is just kind of just generic Godzilla-y, or Biollante was the first one that I saw that was it was bigger than Godzilla. The design of it was just crazy. It turns into the weird alligator thing. It flies off into, it's not when it's destroyed, it just dissipates off into space. and technically might be the source of Space Godzilla, if I remember right. But Creature Features is always where I kind of sat at. So the first time I ever saw John Carpenter's The Thing, and the moment whenever they go into the dog kennel and there's the like, I guess shoulder is the best part that you could probably describe of it, with all the eyeballs on it, and then it breaks open and you see all that
A little friggin' flower
orange red.
open. Yeah.
Well, before that, before even the thing that comes out of it, right? It's just this weird orange red fibrous material, and then that mouth comes out that's made of dog tongues with teeth.
Yeah.
Flies out of it, and they torch it. Like from that moment, I was like, I love this movie. This is such. So every Halloween now, every single house, because that was the other thing, right? Like my, growing up in Pasadena, for folks that don't know their true crime history, right? That the Candyman, Dean Corll was generally that area. So my parents kind of took all the people who were terrified of like razor blades and candy and all that stuff pretty seriously. So like we would go and trick or treat to all of, a half dozen houses of people that we knew. And then we would just come back and watch random stuff on, ABC 13 and, whatever the family friendly movie, Halloween Town, all Hocus Pocus, all that, Disneyfied Halloween stuff. And so I've just kind of gotten used to on Halloween, kind of sitting around at home watching movies. So that's the one movie, The Thing, I will watch every Halloween without fail. That movie will at least get one run in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I mean, everybody's talked about it to death. The effects, everything about it, it's perfect. So it's good stuff, man. Too bad it bombed and eventually drove John Carpenter.
I blame it. Because they came out at the same time.
What's funny is that, like, as a kid, I was not a fan of E.T. Like,
I wasn't either. I was watching it.
Like,
other than the M&Ms, I like Gizmo.
Oh, not M&Ms, dude. It was Reese's Pieces.
I know it's Reese's Pieces. I know. I just was. It doesn't show you how much I care.
That's how much disregard you have for it.
So, I'll give ET that it did its job and it got me into Reese's Pieces, and that's about it.
Yeah,
but like the rest of that movie was just, it never sunk with me. But again, I grew up on Star Wars and The Last Starfighter, so I'm like, okay, there's an alien, but when does he get in his ship, and when do they fly off into space, and when do they have battles with horrible alien things that crash into the moon and explode? Oh, that doesn't happen. It just has a little glowy finger and goes, ouch, I'm done, I'm out.
Anything, I can watch Starman.
Yeah.
I've never seen, like, there's a bunch of the Carpenter catalog I haven't seen. I haven't seen Starman. I've never seen Escape from
LA.
I've never seen Vampires. I've
Vampires
heard,
is good.
Vampires is great, man.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about Vampires. I need to sit down and watch it one of these days. The one that I'm probably going to continue to avoid because of how much awful stuff I've heard about is Ghost of Mars. I've heard
it's just basically a retelling of Assault on Precinct 13 with aliens.
Then I'll just watch Assault.
Wow, that summarized it well.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a retelling of that movie.
It's
one of the ones I've watched like twice. It's like, it's a Carpenter movie, but it's like, I mean, I've watched LA more than that one. So.
Yeah, I watched LA once, and I can't do that again.
Come on, it's got Bruce Campbell in it. You gotta,
Yeah, it's got Bruce Campbell in it, but Bruce Campbell isn't going to carry the whole movie in that case. I'm sorry.
No.
I'll tell you what Bruce Campbell does carry, though, is friggin' Evil Dead. Like, Ash vs. Evil Dead was such a good series.
Yeah,
I'm glad they brought it in. I'm glad it ran for 3 seasons. I wish it had gone on for more, but I am just grateful for the amount of Ash that we've been able to get through, the time that Bruce Campbell has been on this earth.
And that's a franchise that had a lot of fun with the whole horror genre in general, and the way it kind of just played on it, played against it, and stuff like that. Very well done.
Yeah. Which is, it's sad that Ember's not here to talk about it, because that was her. Her imaginary friend for things, and saving her from horror was Ash showing up with his chainsaw and telling one-liners and stuff. But I mean, it's funny because I just remember all of us going to go see Army of Darkness, over there off of the theater. What was it Bay Area Theater or whatever it was over there? Whatever that theater was, right over there.
Cinemark 20?
Well, it was long
Before that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was before Cinemark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all were before my time because Cinemark was the main theater that we always went to.
Or was NASA Road one of the two?
Yeah, NASA. Yeah, down in that general area.
Yeah.
There was I wish your dad was here because he could probably remember the drive-in we used to go to all the time.
Yeah, the one in Pearland.
Oh man, we saw some of the best crap there.
Yeah, I remember us driving through there later, and when we were a little bit older, and he's all like, "Hey, there's driving over there. That's not fair, Dad. We can't go. It's closed now." Yeah, I know.
See, that's where I've been really appreciative of like Shudder bringing in Joe Bob Briggs, right, and doing his whole last drive-in show, because again, like not grown up with a lot of the schlocky, just awfully bad B horror movie type stuff. It's been good with YouTube and having all like different guys doing these reviews of all these weird oddball, right, movies from back in the day, and then watching all this stuff with Joe Bob and just listening to him talk about like all these history, all these different like drive-in movies and things that he said. Like I've gone out and hunted down oddball B movies just because I either saw it on Shudder or the Video Game Nerd and Cinemassacre. They do their whole Monster Madness, and I've seen a bunch of movies on there that I whenever he did his review of the Coffin Joe series, I was like, that sounds really interesting. So I went out and I found Coffin Joe, and I don't think I have it in here.
I have one of the Coffin Joes.
I've got the trilogy. I actually found it. And so, I grabbed up all. I was like, found that, pulled it in, and it's just, it's cool, and that's what makes horror such a cool genre, right? Because it is so easy to do on such a small budget that there's all these people going, years and years back that have made all this weird crap that is just it's fun to watch because of how just bat crap crazy it is, right? Like whenever I was watching The Strain for the first time, and Guillermo del Toro put in that bit about the luchador who made the movies in his younger years of fighting monsters, and just on a whim, I decided to go look it up, and that was a whole genre of film. El Santo, the biggest name in all of luchador history, made movies back in what is it, like the 60s and 70s, where he would just go fight the Wolfman and go fight Dracula and fight Frankenstein. And there's the one where they randomly inserted a bunch of stuff into it without his consent and released it in Europe and all that. Like the fact that there's a movie that exists where a lucha libre creates a time machine to go back in time to steal the treasure of Dracula. The fact that that's a sentence that describes the plot of a movie is fantastic.
Yeah. So with just fond memories. So there was one night, me and Jason, buddy of mine that passed away quite a few years ago, we're sitting here just flipping channels, and we find student bodies.
Oh.
So for like the longest time, he would call me up and he goes, "Eggplant, eh?" And it's just this guy who's going around killing teenagers that are getting laid.
Yeah.
Like all good slasher movies do.
Yeah. But it was just a comedy. It was a hilarious horror movie. I just recently got that on Blu-ray, I think last year. Haven't watched it yet again.
So the
should do a watch party.
Yeah.
There you go.
We should all agree on one absolutely horrible movie, get as many of us we can, and just do a watch party.
Or we'll do a commentary. We'll watch it and do a commentary, and then
we'll
you can listen to our commentary as you're watching the movie too. Yeah.
Right.
But I think the most quotable horror movie I've watched here recently, outside of The Exorcist 3, was a horrible movie with Charlie Sheen about a car, The Wraith.
Right, yeah.
The Wraith, I have that too.
There's a movie. I actually saw it at Walmart the other day. I was walking through there and I looked over. I was like, "Is that? Oh my god! They actually put it on Blu-ray. What is this movie?" And it was on Netflix one day, and I just randomly put it on and started watching it. My son was in there, and there's a moment where there's a dude who's like, I'm tweaking, bro. I'm tweaking." And so, it's the most random stuff in movies will just like click something in the back of my brain, and it works because my son will pick up on it too, and he and I just start laughing. And so, just at random moments, we'll just be walking around doing something, and be like, I'm tweaking, bro. I'm tweaking." And we'll just quote it at each other just for no reason whatsoever, other than just it strikes us in the moment. It's hilarious.
Maximum Overdrive would be another one of those movies.
Yes.
Honey, this machine
Yes.
just called me an asshole.
Yeah. What was it? Was it a Bible salesman, right? Was one of the guys stuck in the diner,
Yeah.
and like his car gets hit, and he's like, "Son of a bitch, out of my way, bitch." And he shoves the waitress out of the way to try and go running outside. Like again,
And it just gets bam hit in the ditch.
but again, that's another one of those ones where I saw that movie for the very first time over at Andrew's house, and he quoted that line constantly. That in a Repo Man with
Emilio Estevez.
Emilio Estevez. And like that's such a dude. I did not remember seeing that movie beginning to end, and I just rewatched it like in the last year. That is such a weird movie. Like I remember the first half of it better than I remember the last half, because the last half of that movie just gets so weird. But it's fun, right? It's fun. It's a good little movie. The weird alien corpse in the back of the car melting everybody that looks at it.
Like Pulp Fiction with the whole whatever's in the briefcase.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's Marcellus Wallace's soul or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's Quentin Tarantino trying to be David Lynch.
David Lynch.
That's what it is.
Uh,
A quick connection. Men at Work. Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, or was it David Keith? David Keith.
I know.
Two different guys. Same, but that was a funny movie. Had a little bit of horror flavor to it, but it was really bizarre at the same time.
Yeah.
Man, Keith David needs to get more run with people, right? Like he's half the dynamic duo of The Thing. Yep. He's half the dynamic duo of They Live. Like all his voice work, right? Like I mean, just Keith David is so awesome. And just everything he does, man.
Like,
Absolutely.
I will listen to like everyone's like, I'll listen to Morgan Freeman read the phone book. It's like, you know what? I'd rather listen to Keith David. He's just got such a good voice, just such a good iconic voice. And he's always so entertaining to watch in like everything that he does.
Come on,
his voice work in Gargoyles.
Yes.
That right there was establishing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved to seen that show really live up to its potential, because of the fact it was Disney-fied and stuff like that. They could have really gone down the horror road with that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. A little more of the mystical side of horror and supernatural creatures. Yeah.
I mean,
if somebody were to remake that.
The episodes where they focus on it, right? They do such a good job. But I think I talked about this before, but I remember just a random, like episode 3 or something, they have the obligatory PSA about the danger of guns. Yeah. And it's not just a snippet, it's a whole episode of the police detective, the big airheaded gargoyle showing up with the dog one. And they're like messing around. They're messing around in her kitchen, and she's got her gun out, and the big one picks it up and pulls it and winds up shooting her. And the whole episode is trying to get her basically medical help. I'm like, I don't remember this episode.
I do.
Why did this take a whole episode to do? Guys, can we get back to the awesome, underground, behind the scenes, mystical gargoyle fighting? Because that's what I signed up for, but whatever. It's fine. But yeah, it's. And I thought I had remembered hearing something about them wanting to redo that series, which I think would be awesome. But
Yeah, that'd be really cool. But they've been doing the figures. I mean, they got
those figures
Just
look
the Mouse.
awesome.
They have two versions of Goliath, Demona, and then they just showed an image for Bronx, the dog.
Yes, it looks good. Those
Yeah.
things look awesome.
I haven't had a chance to pick them up because just we've been doing a lot of stuff with bills and everything, so it's like I don't have that extra cash right now to do anything with. But as soon as I get a chance,
all fun.
Yeah, that's horror. You want to know what hero horror? Paying bills.
Yes,
It's like, yes, I
adulting
got this nice
horrors.
paycheck with 10 hours
Yeah.
overtime. No, you don't. Bills come
Because the
knocking
real
at the
horror
door.
comes, company's gonna turn off your power.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Right.
refrigerator. That's horror.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I couldn't upload an episode of this week. I had no money to pay my internet.
There you go. That's
No.
nice. Well, it's funny because thinking of old like kids shows getting rebooted. I just recently found out just this past week that Nickelodeon have rebooted Are You Afraid of the Dark as a little miniseries. And so I finished the first season of the miniseries because it's on Netflix right now. It's the Carnival of Doom, and it starts off really, really strong. By the end, it feels like they kind of had to rush towards the end of it, right? It's a very Something Wicked This Way Comes style story. So it's all paint by numbers, right? It's all just like the beats that if you've watched a lot of horror over the years, you can kind of see where things are coming as they're coming along. But it's sometimes it's just good to have that familiar, warm little blanket to wrap yourself around, right? Like I watched Fear Street, right? I've been trying to get through the rest of Midnight Mass, and everything is just so heavy, right? With all these big concepts of these heavy relationships and things going on in it, that I'm like, you know what? Having just that simple cotton candy style of just a well shot, well directed, kind of spooky, but not like truly terrifying, just little horror vignette almost. It's like a nice little sorbet on the palate.
Sorbet, that's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's just a cleanser, right? It's not every horror film needs to be this deep introspective story about the struggles of addiction in a modern world and told through the eye, blah blah blah. Sometimes you just want to see people deal with a demonic ringleader of a carnival and nothing more, and just run with that.
Okay, so since we brought it up, at least you brought it up. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Ray Bradbury. That movie is great. The book's great too, but it's one of my favorite movies to watch during Halloween as well this month.
I wonder if it's been discontinued. I checked on Disney because it's a Disney movie, right? I checked on Disney Plus. It's not there. The DVDs and all that are out of print.
I have it on DVD. I haven't found it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I don't think they've released it on Blu-ray, and it makes me wonder, like, is the Bradbury estate holding that thing up, or what's going on? Because man, I would love to get my hands on. I have seen that movie one time, and like you said, it's a good movie, and I want to watch it again. I want to show it to the kids. I want to get their feel and take on it, because
it's a good father and son movie.
Absolutely, it's just a good little movie, and
Well, there's another one that's very similar, and it's the same author, Halloween Tree, about the friends that go and basically give up a year of their life each to have their friend be able to live longer.
Right.
And then the horrors and things they go through. I remember me and Ember watching that on TV one year, and it was like, man, this is a really good dark cartoon on regular television. And it was years later that we were able to get it on DVD.
Trying to think. The first, so again, growing up, right? Like a lot of the horror television, quotation marks, horror television I remember watching was like Monsters and Addams Family type stuff. I think the first real horror show that I ever saw was either the It miniseries, or it was horror, haunted house, a bunch of psychic people go into it. I want to say it's Rose Red.
Okay, yeah, which another Stephen King.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the two that I remember watching growing up, and those were good. I enjoyed those. I've never gone back and rewatched them. Right, uh,
Come on, man, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry is the best part of that series, because I don't. I've never been very big on Stephen King. He always starts really, really strong, and then by the time it gets to the end, I'm sitting there going, but you started so well. Where did you? Why are you here now? Why is the weird, creepy clown a giant space spider thing? Or in the new series, why were they able to basically crap talk an elder god to death? I don't understand, and I don't know. I outside of his more straightforward stuff like Salem's Lot and Carrie and things like that, where it's just very ABC following along, but like it, I had the hardest time with the ending. Again, everything before that, good stuff. Enjoyed
the book,
it.
or are you talking about just the book? You talking about the miniseries, both miniseries?
I have never read the book because it's this big. The book.
Come on,
is
you got to
this
read the
big.
book, man.
No.
And that's the one book that Anna won't read
No.
because she doesn't like clowns.
No, see, I refuse to read it because so I've got a bunch of stuff I need to read, watch, all sorts of other stuff, and I've tried to make sure I go out and I pick snippets of each of the grandmasters of various things. So, like, I read The Mist by Stephen King.
Yes.
And it seems like the one thing that King constantly comes back to, which is part of what irritated me about Fear Street, is it's like, here we go, horror thing going along. We're going to take a section out of this portion right here to get our characters laid. And then we're going to go back to the horror thing going along. I'm like, why does this part exist? Why is it in The Mist? The dude shows up. He's at the supermarket. His wife hasn't even technically been away from him for longer than 24 hours, and he's nailing some chick at the supermarket. I get it.
Okay.
I get it. Stress.
Hold
the
on.
Craziness
But
of the
you got to
moment.
think of when you literally go. Remember when he left the house, there was damage to the side of his house. It's part of the reason why he was going into the
Right,
town.
yeah.
So all he could think of is think about it. If there was the spiders that attack him in the other store or any other creature, there was no place in the house that his wife could have survived. He already assumed that she was dead. And of course, when you get to the point of
but that doesn't matter. My wife's dead. 2 seconds later. Hey,
people do things
in the supermarket. I just chalk it up to Stephen King was high on cocaine. As Rick James very famously states in Chappelle's Show, cocaine's a hell of a drug. Anyways, but it's like, yeah, like, so I've read a little bit of Stephen King, and the bit that I've read, it's good enough. It just didn't really do a whole lot for me. I've read Clive Barker's Books of Blood, Volume 1, and some of the stories in there were really good. They still have weird stuff to it that doesn't quite jive with me, but it's been really I prefer Barker to King of what I've read. And then outside of that, right, like I've read Lovecraft, but the best Lovecraft story I've ever read wasn't by Lovecraft. It was by a dude named John Horner Jacobs, a book called Southern Gods, which is awesome. Such a good book. Definitely, if you ever get the chance, go find that book and read it, because just the whole concept of it is that there's a blues author who has a record recorded, right, and everyone who listens to it, it like drives them mad. And his name is Rambling John Hastur, which, if you know your Lovecraft, you know that Hastur is the king in yellow, right? So it's all like old timey, deep South. This dude trying to hunt down this blues artist for the record label that he works for, but at the same time, you know, he doesn't want to find him because he doesn't want to start spreading this horror that he's obviously finding. And it's such a awesome little book that just plays on so many things of the mythos in it. And it's just a really, really awesome book.
Well, so The Revival by Stephen King is his take on Lovecraftian horror.
I mean, in fairness, all King does is Lovecraftian horror.
That's true too.
The Mist is Lovecraftian horror. Like it's his thing. He just took Lovecraft and he twisted it into his which is what everybody does, right?
Yes.
Lovecraft established the idea of cosmic horror, and then you've had all these authors come in. I mean, that's what Barker does, right? Like the Cenobites are technically cosmic Lovecraftian horror. And so everybody just takes what Lovecraft did, puts their spin on it, and throws it out there in the world. And it's usually a little bit better than Lovecraft because Lovecraft is a wordy man. Good Lord. I think I've said it before, but if you want a good drinking game, get the audiobook for The Mountains of Madness and take a shot for every single time he uses the word cyclopean, and you will be blitzed before you get out of the first chapter. I guarantee you.
But all right, so Colin, I'll let you.
Real quick there, I'm looking it up now. The whole concept of looking for the guy with the record. Okay. Trying to season 1 of Constantine, the TV show, did their version of that.
Yeah.
Yes. It was great. God, I missed that show.
I
can't. Come on.
And I blame Supernatural. I 100% blame Supernatural for not ending like 8 seasons ago when it should have.
So that way we could have had freaking Constantine.
Yes.
Lasers.
Dude, the episode where he goes like into that dreamland and has to like fight Papa Midnight. The whole thing. God, and then Swamp Thing. Dude, I watched the first couple episodes of Swamp Thing. I need to finish it. But then they recut it and they put it on the WB in a family safe version. They cut out all the awesome bits. Like the crazy body horror of the Thing in the first episode, all that good stuff. It's like, and then that thing bombed because
the Devil's Vinyl.
Huh?
Sorry, the Devil's Vinyl, episode 3.
All right.
There you go. But yeah, like the Constantine show was great, right? The Swamp Thing show was great, and Constantine again got canceled because I swear to God it was Supernatural's fault. I don't know the actual reasons, but I'm just going to blame Supernatural because that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then Swamp Thing was good, but budgetary problems and all that sunk that ship, sadly. Hopefully one day they'll be able to get one of those off the ground because I've been waiting for that, right? I've been waiting for DC horror show. Swamp Thing had Madame Xanadu. All it needed was a couple seasons, introduce Etrigan and Jason Blood and all that stuff, and I would have been so happy. So happy. But I'll just have to live with what I got.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we got, the 3 Blade movies, and it wasn't until then that we got the third one that Hannibal King showed up. But no way we'll ever get the Midnight Sun.
Well, the video game's coming out.
Yeah, sure. That's true.
Which looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I don't know. There's general rumor that the Midnight Suns is one of the things that they're slowly working on because of the characters they're putting together in the Marvel TV stuff. Plus the Blade movie.
Yeah.
I hope that's good. I don't know how you do Blade and it not be rated R.
Well, they're going to use Deadpool they're going to use Deadpool to test those waters.
Yeah.
Well, Deadpool was Fox. Now it's Disney.
Yeah, I'll be curious. They've said the third one is going to be rated R.
All right.
They announced that a while back.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how hard into that R they decide to lean because again, I don't know how you do Blade other than R. But I mean, we've seen a bunch of PG-13 movies come out, right? That are arguably awful to bad, from the Total Recall reboot to the RoboCop reboot to all those other
Terminator sequels.
The RoboCop reboot wasn't that bad.
I did not hate that movie.
Venom 2.
Haven't seen that yet.
I haven't seen it yet either, but I know that Carnage isn't really Carnage in the movie. He doesn't, that's just
Carnage
Ah.
Light.
how can you have a movie with a villain that likes to create carnage and murder people and just be blatant about it, and then in the trailer you have him turn into the Tasmanian devil and spin around and it's suggestive that he killed these people because you want to give a rating for it of a PG-13 instead of an R.
Yeah. Got to get more butts and seats. That's the way you do it, right?
That's a misconception considering the fact that back when the horror movies were rated R and everything, there were still tons of butts in those seats. Even kids who had parents that let them go see it, like me. But I don't know. The funny thing is maybe you can get Wesley Snipes to come in to play. If they're going to do a complete retelling of Blade, you can have him be Deacon Frost.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm like I said,
You want to stick to the comic source material.
Of all the new Marvel movies that they've announced to be coming out, that's the one I'm the most interested in seeing how they handle, right? How they're able to work that and see how it turns out. Because I mean, the Wesley Snipes Blade movies, at least the first two, are
great.
a ton of fun, right?
Yeah.
Even the third one has its moments, as weird and awful and campy as it is. It's still got its moments here and there in it. But yeah, it's like Blade was always such a fun and cool character. I'm really curious to see how well they handle that portion of the franchise, right?
Bringing in some more supernatural aspect of it to the series. Yeah.
I am curious about Moon Knight too.
Yeah.
Because that has potential. Speaking of adaptations with horror genre, they're doing Grendel. Somebody's doing Grendel. The Hunter Rose Grendel.
Okay.
That if I want to say it's Netflix. I'm not sure. I'll go back and look it up. But they announced it was like 2 weeks ago. They announced it. That I think I shared it on our chat page.
I have to look.
But they said it was going to be. It's going to be like a short series, but it's going to be Hunter Rose. And I'm thinking if they do that right, that has a lot of potential. Because that had some pretty grim stuff going on there, and.
So there's thinking of Grendel. One of the more interesting interpretations I've ever seen of the Beowulf legend is the guys who did Dragonlance. I can't think of their names right now. They wrote a book series. It was a 2-book series. It was a sci-fi series. It was called Son of Grendel. The Children of Grendel, something like that. But basically, it's all a sci-fi series where they land on humanity goes out to try and go find a habitable planet. They send down some probes. They find one. They go down there, and what they didn't realize is the planet went through different seasonal changes. And during the raining season, there were these little bitty fish creatures that were all over the place that they would just pick up and eat. And what they didn't realize is that those were basically small versions of these things, these giant, like fish-like hunter things that would swim through the rivers. And there were these incredibly powerful creatures. And so it's all a very similar retelling to Beowulf, but told in a sci-fi setting with a completely different style of monsters. So like, Grendel's mother is a different style of creature, but it's still a fairly similar telling to it of it just being a much larger, older version of this particular type of monster. And so it was such a cool reinterpretation of the legend that still kept a lot of the terror and horror portions of the story to it, just in a slightly different way and manner. But it's like stuff like that, right? You want to see the old legends get their due, But at the same time, when there's cool and interesting reinterpretations, it's like, man, there's so much good stuff out there that you just love to see someone who really, knows their craft, just sink their teeth into something like that and bring it to life.
Okay.
Well, Colin, you're talking about the Matt Wagner stuff, right? For Grendel.
Yep. Oh yeah, the very original stuff that got it off the ground.
Yeah.
That's
Not Beowulf side of it, David. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It segued nice.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It segued
Maybe,
nice.
I guess I'm thinking. So wait, this isn't the one that's taught. It's the story told from the perspective of Grendel, or is this something? I guess I'm not sure.
No. Look up Matt Wagner Grendel, Hunter Rose. It's about this. He's kind of like an anti-hero, but
Super.
at the same time he becomes a mob kingpin, and
okay.
Yeah. And then I guess we could start wrapping this up, but I wanted to talk about two things. One was, have y'all checked out the trailer for the Black Phone?
No, I haven't. I saw you throw it up in the chat, but I haven't gone and taken a look at it yet.
Yeah, it looks really good. Ethan Hawke plays the antagonist or the main bad guy in the movie.
oh my God, it's Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in anything since. Wasn't he in the movie with Willem Dafoe with the vampires where they were trying to come up with a cure, and they find out that sunlight is the cure, but it has to be like quick sunlight. It's like day.
Yeah,
day
that's
breaks.
come on, what's that movie called?
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
David, real quick, Ethan Hawke is going to be in Moon Knight as well.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. And then also, just to bring this back, the series I was talking about is called the Harrowat, The Legacy of Harrowat and Beowulf's Children.
Okay.
Series by Larry Niven, Jerry Cornell, and Stephen Barnes. So I think at least two of those guys did the Dragonlance stuff, but I'd have to check my sources on that. But good stuff, man. Good stuff.
So I guess the last thing we can do is just kind of give our top 3 horror movies.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's start with you, David.
Y'all don't want to start with me. I'm always bad with lists, man. Because it changes, right? It always changes with me. I got to think about this for a second. You can't drop this stuff on me on.
That's true. But
anyways, go ahead. I'll try. I'll come up with something. I know what my number 1 is, but I'll figure out the other 2 in a minute.
I know what my number 1 is. I know most of my, yeah.
All right. For me, it's going to be The Exorcist, Halloween, and I don't know, maybe the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi, or White Zombie with Bela Lugosi. That's a great horror movie. Great classic horror movie. So those would probably be mine.
All right, so yeah, I mean, my number 1 is it's the reason why I watch it every year is The Thing.
Yeah.
I love everything about that movie. This might be recency bias because I really dug the movie. The creature in it was really what sold me on it, and that was The Ritual, which is on Netflix with the son of Loki in it. It was just the creature in that is such a cool looking monster for it. Man, and the third one's tough because it's, I don't know, there's so many. You know what, for the fun factor, I'll go right now off the top of my head, since the first one that popped into it would be Dusk Till Dawn. Just a great little vampire movie. Probably my favorite vampire movie that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, yeah, there's all the serious ones and all that, but just again, I'm such a fan of just ratcheting everything up to 11, the insanity of stuff from Dusk Till Dawn. I'll say that number 3.
Okay. So number 1, of course, is The Thing. It's hands down original 1982 John Carpenter classic. But let's see. Next one right after that is going to be Friday Night 1. And then the funny thing is that because it's just because, but Prince of Darkness is my another John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
But talk about end of the world stuff on 2 of those, part of his Apocalypse trilogy. But what is this? Something to recommend, and that's one thing if we need to do an episode on talking about vampire movies, and you're talking about yours, Dust Till Dawn, but another 2 great ones are vampires. Of course, you need to watch. Amazing John Carpenter movie, James Woods, and then but Near Dark.
Yeah, that was another one I heard about recently. I need to go hunt down somewhere and.
As 3 members,
I have heard a lot.
aliens.
Where vampires is pretty good. Near Dark is a much better Western style vampire movie that kind of does vampires better than vampires is more or less the way I heard it described. But
well, so both are cool because they do a different take on vampirism. Same thing with the movie Forsaken, which is another good vampire movie. But whereas one is a exorcism that goes bad with technically almost in the way they're both similar, except for one's related to what was it? Actually, you don't even get that in Near Dark. You don't really get the origins of them. They're vampires, but they don't really talk about their origin.
okay.
But they've been around since at least the Wild West.
So Near Dark has an exorcism in it?
No, but Forsaken does. It talks about it. Yeah. But in vampires, there's a ritual that they try to pull on the main bad guy that is talked about, and the exorcism goes bad.
Okay.
And actually, technically, it was almost like it was already bad in general what they were doing in the first place. But
and I want to give honorable mention to Vampires Los Muertos.
yeah, the sequel to Vampires.
Yeah, it had John Bon Jovi in it, but he did a decent job.
Yeah,
the whole plot of it was a solid plot.
yeah, exactly.
So it deserves at least an honorable mention on my part.
I mean, if we're talking about honorable mentions of vampire movies, I can't believe neither one of y'all has brought up the only vampire movie that has a amazingly oiled up body saxophone solo run of
I Still Believe. Come on, man.
That's right, man. What other movie are you going to see a grown ass man covered in like baby oil with big old chains in just the most skin tight purple like legging pants that he probably put that baby oil on to get into playing a saxophone? Like, you're not going to see that in any vampire movie.
With long hair and a ponytail, rocking it out.
Dude, just owning that whole scene.
That one song, I Still Believe, is like literally on on my playlists all the time.
Wow.
I mean, I remember the movie more for the grandfather's car horn. His, what's the word for it? Oh my God, the English language is failing me. Whenever he goes to push the horn on his car and it does the I can't think of the word. I'm just, you know what, just forget it. I'm out. But yeah, the grandfather of that movie was fantastic.
Yeah, the grandfather was great. It was like kind of like my grandfather as portrayed in a movie. Charles.
And they're going to be remaking or doing some kind of something with the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of curious to see how far they're going to take that saxophone man.
Yeah. Well, and you can't have that movie remade without somebody dressing up like that singing that song.
That's right.
or at least a poster of him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
But,
not the Lost Boys without grown ass men and baby oil and super tight purple pants.
Now, which was funny because I didn't realize that Joel Schumacher was the director of that movie. I always hated him for what he did to those 2 Batman movies. And you just can't think of like he put nipples on Batman's
bat
suit,
and he was
like,
happy about it.
He was happy about it, and he made Lost Boys one of the great vampire movies. But the funny thing is that original script was supposed to be actually about Peter Pan and the Lost Boys as vampires, and them trying to find new people to bring into their crew.
That would have been
I'm like, that concept is amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know why someone hasn't tried to just literally take that and actually put the film. They tried to do it with the original movie, but didn't work, or they ended up going a different direction. But that's awesome. Yeah, and then you could have it to where Hook was actually a vampire hunter.
Yeah,
and he was actually the good guy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I remember reading about that. I was like, holy crap, this is a better movie. Why isn't this being made?
Like, for as awesome as this movie is, it could have been better.
Yeah, it could have been so much better.
Wow.
But it makes sense, it makes sense with the guy who saxophone dude with his bare chest and everything for Joel Schumacher directing it, with what he did to Batman.
Yeah. See, and the way you do it is you make that guy Shmi. That way you get so much more screen time out of him.
Yeah, you definitely get the audience there to watch the movie.
That's right, man. That's what everybody's coming for. That saxophone. Vampires, all that stuff, whatever. I'm here for the saxophone. That's what I need.
He uses the saxophone to like lure the vampires in because they're kind of like the vampires from
he's like a pipe piper of vampires.
Yeah. Which is funny because I was going to bring up this too, but we didn't get a chance to, and I guess I'll add it right here. Was the whole I watched Lair of the White Worm last month, which is Hugh Grant and Peter Capaldi.
Okay,
were the 2 main characters in that. But that's a Bram Stoker story, like Dracula was.
Huh.
And they actually do that in the movie with Peter Capaldi, who's Scottish, and he's got a bagpipe, and he's playing it, and of course the vampires are all like, because they're part snakes, so they're just listening to the music and start dancing, and it's a good movie. It's it's just hilarious looking back at this movie that was really serious back then, but it's like almost a comedy now.
Now I'm thinking of the cartoon version of Smee. Purple pants, glasses, baby oil, saxophone.
See, I'm just bringing you all kinds of joy today.
Bob Hopkins.
Between Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell, baby oil and purple pants. It's just
that's what you do. You get you need to have them Photoshop Patrick Swayze's face on that dude while he's singing.
There you go.
Patrick Swayze's face on the saxophone player.
Absolutely. The Chippendale skit. Heck yeah.
Well, no, that's what it is. You just you Photoshop Kurt Russell's face on one of them, and then somebody else is on the saxophone.
Or just get really good about it and make half a face one Kurt Russell.
He's Two-Face.
Face off.
Actually, I'd love to see someone do a deep fake of that. Do Face Off, but with Kurt Russell and the Patrick Swayze. Just
that would be just swapping heads everywhere. Who'd be the great ones to do something like that? Lego. Because then they literally could take the heads off and swap them.
Swap them like. This is.
We've gone off the rails enough.
Yeah, this is the conversation that we used to have when we were younger, and it was really late after role playing, and we just completely lost our minds before we go to sleep.
That's right. And that's what we're doing. We're just losing our minds right now before we go to sleep. It works. My absolute favorite, and this still fits in with horror, is my absolute favorite legend about Kurt Russell is that his name were the dying words of Walt Disney. Y'all ever heard that?
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Once upon a time, I don't remember where I remembered reading it, where I remembered seeing it, but legend has it, the dying words of Walt Disney was the name Kurt Russell.
And this is the title of the episode right now.
There you go.
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney's dying words.
Kurt Russell.
Walt Disney's dying words.
Man.
Russell. ...
That's almost as weird as the fact that Machete got his start in Spy Kids.
Yeah, here we go. First thing, Googled it up. All I Googled was Walt Disney dying words. One of Hollywood's more bizarre urban legends that Walt Disney's dying words for Kurt Russell has worked its way into someone screwed this up, back into the mainstream, and then they go into the truth. I don't care about the truth. Truth is that Disney didn't actually utter the actor's name, but he did write it down. So he did write it down.
So his last written words were
That's right.
Russell.
Kurt Russell was one of the last things he wrote in his office. So there you go.
There you go. Well, I wonder what he was going to cast him in.
I don't know, but supposedly, yeah, he was just infatuated with Kurt Russell because he was a rising star at the time. Walt Disney, man, dying words, Kurt Russell.
Well, considering the fact that he was in 4 of his films,
He wanted to leave him his frozen head.
There you go. No, see, it was just he was going to try and inject his consciousness into Kurt Russell's body, and so what we don't realize is that the Kurt Russell we know right now is actually Walt Disney.
Is actually Walt Disney. Yeah,
that's right.
And he's banging Goldie Hawn. That son of a bitch.
it's like Free Jack, another movie with Emilio Estevez.
Yes.
So instead of it's Kurt Russell and Walt Disney versus.
I like how off the rails we've gotten, guys. It's good.
Yeah, I know.
Victory.